Independence Day, 250 years of the United States of America, folks. I'm your town supervisor, Joseph D. Cavaccini. As always, it is a great honor and privilege to welcome you to Brexel Schlotthaus Park, and today, on this most auspicious occasion. 250 years ago, on this very date, a group of ordinary people did an extraordinary thing. When they appealed to the supreme judge of the world and formally declared independence from the largest superpower on the globe. And these colonists forged ahead with an incredible form of government never seen on the face of this earth, and launched the American experiment that we know today. There is truly no place else like the United States of America. And towns like the town of Wappinger helped shape the very fabric of this nation. From its inception 250 years ago to today, we are most honored and humbled to be part of this amazing experiment. At this time, we'd like to acknowledge our volunteer firefighters. Give them a round of applause from the New Hackensack Fire Company. We'd like to note that they are volunteers. They do not take a holiday, so shout out to them. We'd also like to acknowledge our colleagues in government who are joining us here today. From our New York State Assembly, Assemblyman Anil Bipan. From our town of Wappinger government, our town clerk and former town councilman, Joseph P. Paoloni. Representing the 2nd Ward of the town of Wappinger, Councilwoman Heather Odell. Our Dutchess County legislator, Kevin Giles. And he started with us, but the town of Fishkill stole him from us. That is the town of Fishkill town clerk, Cooper Miles Leatherwood. We'd also like to give a shout out to our Parks and Recreation Director, Jessica Fulton, for being here bright and early this morning, helping us set up. Thank you very much. At this time, we'd like to call up one of our town's own residents to sing the national anthem, and that is Brendan Sohan. Brendan, thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight all the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? All the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Get another round of applause for Mr. Sohan here. Thank you. I'd like to call upon our New York State Assemblyman, Anil B. Pan, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Soup. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Happy 4th and God bless you all.
And before we get to the reading, we'd like to call upon our town clerk, Joseph P. Paloni, to provide us with a history of the American Revolution, briefly located here during the founding of our country. Mr. Paloni?
Thank you.
Is there any way we can,
Of course.
so I can, okay, a little show of hands. How many people, can you guys all hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. Louder. How many people out here, right, show of hands, know that most of the fighting in the Hudson Valley corridor from Lake Champlain to New York City, and most important battles took place along that corridor? Show of hands. Show of hands. That's not many. That's not many. There's an old saying: history gets written by the and told by the winners, and the winners don't like telling facts about their defeats. Now, probably one of the reasons why you don't hear much about it is because Washington almost got fired of all the defeats and being pushed back, and the most of the battles here in the Hudson Valley. After the Battle of Bunker Hill and Lexington and Concord, they agreed to have one commander, and they appointed Washington. At that time, the British had realized that the best way to defeat the colonists was to divide them. And there's a natural way to get through these mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, which were pretty formidable mountains back then, simply because there were no highways, interstate highways, or trains or anything of that nature. So they realized that they would separate the northern colonies from the southern colonies through the Hudson Corridor, which basically was created by, it's not even a river at all, it's really a fjord, as the Norwegians pointed out. Basically an ice dam up in Montreal broke through at Breakneck and Storm King Mountain there. And that's why you see that gap, and cut Staten Island off Long Island, what have you. But the British realized that that's a natural way through the Appalachians, the only way through the Appalachians. And Washington and the American colonists realized their plan to divide us, and they sent Washington to New York City. And as the British came into the harbor there, he wanted a higher place to shoot down from, so he went to Brooklyn, and he brought the troops over to Brooklyn. Well, the British, when they came in, they surrounded, they went around through the flatlands of Brooklyn, the Broken Lands. Actually, that's what the Dutch named Brooklyn, Broken Land. And well, if you ever look at the southeastern part of Brooklyn, it's all a bunch of broken lands. I mean, there's good clams there if you guys clam at all. And nevertheless, they came in through the back, the flatlands. Washington got pushed back. They talk about crossing the Delaware. What was way more amazing was crossing the East River, where the Brooklyn Bridge is, and the entire army, horses, cannons, in the middle of a fog evening, they crossed the East River back to Manhattan. Of course, as the British continued to push further north, Washington's army went to Fort Washington, and they burnt New York City, the British. A lot of battles went on. Then eventually he crossed over and started heading up here right through what we have the highlands. At that time, there was only two ways off of Manhattan, other than by boat, which was the King's Bridge and the Free Bridge. I don't know if you know the Bronx, the Manhattan, that area of the Bronx, Spike and Dival area. 230th Street is where the Free Bridge and the Kingsbridge was. The Wappinger Native Americans, they were enlisted to go down there, the entire tribe, to help fight to save the Kingsbridge, which we didn't. The British had volunteers from Germany and what have you, and they got completely wiped out, and that was the end of the Wappinger Native Americans. Their families had to move to their regional headquarters in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. So nevertheless, the Daniel Ninum's tribe got wiped out. Washington had headquarters between Newburgh and Fishkill, and then attempts to stop them from the south. They put a a chain across at the Bear Mountain Bridge. That didn't work, and then they had one at a place called Camp West Point, which eventually became the military academy, and that one held a lot better. But yeah, they came right up here's where they stopped a lot of the attacks. This is a very significant area. We had General Swartout, who lived right over on All Angels. You had Brinkerhoffville, which was where all those people that didn't survive were buried there. And then from the north, they stopped them at Saratoga, the village of Saratoga. And the village of Saratoga, you know, one thing about the British, they're a sea power, and they're not used to fighting through the thick, lush, heavily wooded, hilly terrain of New York. And so by the time they got through the mountains here, Lake George and the Adirondacks, they beat them in Saratoga. And strangely enough, which is really odd, the village of Saratoga is on the Hudson River, and throughout the 1800s, the racing at Saratoga Springs and the tourism and also the springs, the hot springs there, I guess they convinced the village of Saratoga to change the name to Schuylerville, which really doesn't make any sense to me. But nevertheless, once they stopped them at Saratoga and they stopped them here, this never fell under British control during that war. The British, they basically abandoned the strategy of dividing the colonies, and they said, let's just focus on the southern colonies. And as a result of that, Washington kept his job, and at Saratoga, and the fact that they stopped that plan. And then they focused on Charleston and the southern colonies, and that didn't work because it was just a series of victories for the American Army, and there was not one retreat after Saratoga. Now the American Revolution was really the first Civil War. The loyalists who supported the foreign country versus the patriots who support this country. But you had neighbor against neighbor. It wasn't geographically the North versus the South. You had neighbor against neighbor. People who were born here, their grandparents were here, but were still loyal to the monarchy. A lot of them got killed. A lot of the patriots got killed. A lot of the loyalists got killed. In the end, the loyalists, they either moved to Canada or moved to England, not back to England for the first time to England. But nevertheless, the patriots, even though the United States was a great experiment to see men from many religions, races, countries live together, but with allegiance to a single country. That's an interesting concept, isn't it? But nevertheless, I'll finish by saying in 1606, when Henry Hudson, he was looking for a shortcut to China, and he sailed 100 miles up the Hudson River, well past here, even past Kingston, and then he realized that he didn't find his shortcut. Even he could never have foreseen the tremendous human forces that it would one day unleash, nor that the great country that would rise there would be dedicated to a crucial experiment, one that would grow ever more urgent with each passing year. The exhilarating, often harrowing experiment to see whether all the peoples of the world could live together in one place. Thank you.
folks, this is our first ever reading of the Declaration of Independence formally in the town of Wappinger, and we hope to make this an annual occurrence. In Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having indirect object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish their right to representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise. The state remaining, in the meantime, exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endured to prevent the population of these states for that purpose obstructing the laws of naturalization for foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is, at this time, transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is undistinguished, destruction of all ages sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity and have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They, too, have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind. Enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states. That they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that, as free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Independence Day. Enjoy the rest of your days, and thank you, the people of Wappinger, for taking time out of your morning to be here with us today. Thank you very much. Happy Independence Day.